All right, today we're going to go deep inside the most fascinating, most complex security force on the entire planet, your own immune system. I'm talking about a microscopic army that's keeping you safe from a constant barrage of threats, 24/7. So let's just dive right in.
Really think about it for a second. Every single breath you take, every surface you touch, it's all introducing potential invaders. So how in the world does your body handle this? This relentless assault? Well, it does it with a highly organized, multi-layered defense system. It's time to meet the troops.
Okay, so first up, you've got the soldiers on the front lines, the ones who respond the very second an alarm gets tripped. This is what we call your innate immunity. It's the built-in security that is always on patrol.
So, your immune system, it's basically split into two main branches. First, you have the innate system, and a great way to think about them is like the bouncers at a club. They're always there, they're super fast, and they're pretty good at spotting general troublemakers. The catch? They don't remember faces. Now, the adaptive system, that's a whole different ballgame. These guys are the special forces. They're a bit slower to mobilize, but they are incredibly specific, they learn the enemy's identity, and trust me, they never, ever forget.
So let's get to know this innate team a little better. First, you've got your street cops. These are your macrophages and neutrophils, and their whole job is just to engulf anything that looks suspicious. Then you have the crime scene investigators, dendritic cells, that gather evidence. The key here is that they don't need a specific warrant, right? They recognize these really general danger signals on pathogens. We call them PAMPs, which is basically like spotting someone wearing a generic bad guy uniform. Simple as that.
But what happens when the bouncers get overwhelmed? Well, they've got to call for backup. And this is where the real intelligence operation kicks off, led by that highly specialized adaptive immune system we just mentioned.
See, to get these special forces into the fight, you can't just give them a vague description. You need a very specific piece of intel, and that is the antigen. The best way to think of it is as the enemy's mugshot. It is a totally unique identifier that tells your immune system exactly who to hunt for. And that specific detail in the mugshot, like a scar or a weird tattoo, that's called an epitope. That's the real target.
And who are these elite units? Well, let's meet them. First up, you have the T cells. These guys are both the commanders and the assassins. They manage the entire attack, and they also get their hands dirty taking out infected cells. Then you've got the B cells. Think of them as the weapons factories, just churning out these incredibly precise projectiles called antibodies. And what makes them so elite? Well, three things: laser-like specificity, a huge and diverse arsenal, and, this is the most important part, a flawless memory.
Okay, so you've got the mugshot, you've got the special forces. How does the intel actually get to them? It's all thanks to a system of what you could call molecular billboards, and these are called MHC molecules. And you got to pay attention here because this is absolutely critical. Scenario 1, one of your own body cells gets infected from the inside. It uses an MHC class 1 billboard, and it's basically screaming, "Help, I'm compromised, get me!" That is a kill order shown directly to the CD8+ assassin T cells. But Scenario 2, what if an immune cell just finds an invader floating around outside? Well, then it uses a different billboard, an MHC class 2, and the message is totally different. It's saying, "Hey, look what I found out here." This isn't a kill order for the presenter, it's a call to arms, presented to the CD4+ helper T cells. These are the guys who coordinate the entire army.
All right, so we've met the teams, we've seen how they get their intel. Now, let's watch how they put it all together to launch a full-scale, coordinated attack.
Now, activating a T cell is a really big deal. You don't want them going off half-cocked. So the body has this brilliant two-key launch system to prevent any accidents. Step 1 is the handshake. The T cell has to physically connect with the exact right mugshot. But wait, that's not enough on its own. It also needs a second confirmation code from that same presenting cell. This is the "Are you sure?" signal. And only when it gets both signals does it receive its mission orders through these chemical messengers called cytokines.
Okay, launch codes are in. Once they're activated, the assault begins, and it is a beautifully coordinated two-pronged attack. On one side, you have those CD8+ assassin T cells. They go on this relentless search and destroy mission, hunting down any infected cell that's waving that "help me" flag. Meanwhile, at the exact same time, the CD4+ helper T cells are acting like battlefield generals. They're shouting orders, activating the B cells. And that command basically tells the B cells to transform into what are called plasma cells. Yep, those are the weapons factories we talked about. And just start mass-producing antibodies. We're talking millions of them.
So, what's the deal with all these antibodies? What do they actually do? Well,
Think of them as your body's own smart missiles. They just flood your system, they fly through your blood and tissues, they lock on to their one specific target, and they can neutralize it directly. But they can also do something else really cool. They can act like a tracking beacon, essentially painting a giant, glowing target on the invaders so that other cells, like our street cop macrophages, know exactly what to eat.
Now, this whole system is it's incredibly powerful. But, as you know, with great power comes great risk. So what happens when this perfectly tuned security force makes a mistake?
Well, these mistakes, which we call hypersensitivities, generally fall into 4 main categories. Type 1, that's your classic allergy, a massive, totally unnecessary overreaction to something harmless like pollen, and it's all driven by a specific antibody called IgE. Then you've got types 2 and 3. This is where your own antibodies become the problem, either by directly attacking your own cells or by clumping together and getting stuck in your tissues, causing all kinds of damage. And finally, a type 4 reaction is different because it's a delayed response driven by the T cells themselves. Think of that awful, itchy rash you get from poison ivy. That's a type 4.
But maybe the most devastating mistake of all is autoimmunity. It is, in the simplest terms, friendly fire. For some reason, the system completely loses its ability to tell the difference between self and non-self, and it starts attacking its own healthy tissues. This is what's behind horrible diseases like type 1 diabetes, where the immune system just wipes out the cells that make insulin, or multiple sclerosis, where it attacks the protective coverings on your nerves.
But, for all its potential flaws, our incredible understanding of the immune system allows us to do something truly remarkable. We can actually train it. We can make it better, faster, and stronger. But to really understand how to train our army, it helps to first look at how it can be defeated. See, the most brilliant enemies out there, they don't just fight the foot soldiers. They're smart. They target the command structure. And the HIV virus, it is a master saboteur for this exact reason. It doesn't just attack any old cell, it specifically targets and destroys those CD4+ helper T cells, the generals of our army. It literally assassinates the leadership, and that leaves the entire adaptive immune force in absolute chaos. And the effect, as you can imagine, is just catastrophic. Without treatment, the number of these critical command and control cells can just plummet. We're talking a drop of over 90%. Can you just imagine an army losing 90% of its generals? The whole chain of command just collapses. And that is what we call AIDS, Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome. It's when the system is so crippled that it can't even defend against the most basic infection.
Okay, but here is the brilliant part, the real genius of modern medicine. We can actually use the system's own rules against future invaders. A vaccine, it's basically a training simulation. It's a military drill for your immune system. What we do is we introduce the enemy's mugshot, that antigen, to the special forces in a completely safe, controlled environment. And this allows them to go through the whole process, to build a powerful army of memory cells, so that if the real invader ever dares to show up, they are ready for an immediate and overwhelming response.
Now, it's pretty cool. These training drills actually come in a few different flavors, each with its own strategy. So, some vaccines use a live, but what we call attenuated or weakened version of the pathogen. It's like a really realistic sparring session, but with a disarmed opponent. Others use a completely inactivated or killed version. You can think of that as like studying a training dummy. And a lot of modern vaccines are even more precise than that. They use just one tiny piece of the enemy, a subunit, like a button off their uniform. And that's all your special forces need to learn their target, which makes it incredibly, incredibly safe.
So at the end of the day, the crucial point is this: immune memory. It's the absolute cornerstone of a long and healthy life. It is a living library, and it's built from every single battle your body has ever won. It's this profound, incredible promise that your body makes to itself. And that promise is, we have seen this before, and we will not be defeated again.
And we're really just scratching the surface here. From fighting cancer to preventing autoimmune diseases, we're only just beginning to unlock the full potential of training and directing this incredible internal force. It is your own personal army fighting for you every second of every single day. So the question isn't if we can train it, but what will we teach it to do next?